My mother-in-law almost harmed my child because she forgot to give the medicine. My whole family found out, and now my mother-in-law is spending her birthday by herself. Should I feel guilty? I don't, but my family says I should. Let me take you back and walk you through this entire mess. Some people, when they get married, hit the jackpot with their in-laws. They end up with in-laws who become like second parents to them. This clearly was not my case. I got downright cursed the moment I met my future mother-in-law, Dana. Why did I still marry into the family? Well, I was in love. You know, love makes you do pretty foolish things. Hey guys, I'm Elaine. I met my husband Mario at our place of work. We both worked at a pharmacy and we were both new to the profession. He started there first and 6 months later I joined. From the moment we met, we became bonded over the fact that we were the newbies to the pharmacy. It is always difficult when you start somewhere new, but I was glad I didn't have to go through that alone. About a year after I started working there, I realized I had some romantic feelings for Mario. I didn't want to say anything at first because it felt like it was a bad idea to get involved with your coworker. This was always a strict rule I liked to follow, except now that I was falling for Mario and wanted to throw that out the window. Funny enough, it was Mario who told me his feelings first. He kept saying things that, I didn't have to feel the same or even respond, and all he wanted to do was get over it and get it out of his system before he could. I blurted out that I felt the same way he felt about me. After that, the two of us just started dating. We informed our boss because we didn't want to get in trouble. She said it was fine, but to keep it quiet, and if there were ever any issues in the future, it could result in both of us getting fired. I knew if something did happen, we would both be able to handle it as mature adults. I knew that we were. It wasn't until the 6-month mark that I met my future mother-in-law and sister-in-law for the first time. Leslie, Mario's sister, was a lot younger than me, but she was a sweetheart. She reminded me of my own younger sister, who was great. However, his mother, Dana, was completely different. That woman was odd. Mario had always warned me that she tended to be a conspiracy theorist, especially with Big Pharma. It was why she always hated that he ended up going into the pharmacy career, but for the most part, it was one of those strange, quirky things about her. I did think it was odd that she didn't believe in modern medicine or vaccines and preferred to drink herbal tea or whatever when she got sick. It wasn't a great idea to avoid the doctor completely, I thought, but who was I to judge? It was her personal life, so if that's what she wanted to do, then I wasn't going to say anything about it. Despite the awkwardness there, we went on to get engaged and married. Everything went off without a hitch. Mother-in-law would occasionally try to get us to drink that darn herbal tea. But we would brush her off because it was mostly just one of those weird, quirky things about my mother-in-law. Well, then the pandemic hit, and if you remember anything about the pandemic, then you can certainly recall all the stupid misinformation we learned. My mother-in-law, she bought into the bullcrap hook, line, and sinker. Naturally, I thought she was crazy, and when the vaccine was out, I got it. I wanted to be protected. Why would I not get the vaccine when it was the best way to protect against the virus? Plus, I worked in the pharmacy industry, so I knew what it was like to not be vaccinated against such a disease. My husband Mario felt the same way. He ended up getting the vaccine as well, and when my mother-in-law found out, she automatically blamed me for my husband getting it. She didn't care that he was a fully functional adult who could make his own decisions. No, it was entirely my fault. I somehow tricked or threatened him into getting it, apparently. See, my mother-in-law, Dana, ended up disowning us, so to speak. Honestly, this was one of the best things my mother-in-law could have done. I was going to be fine with her disowning me. It was probably for the best. This way, I wouldn't have to worry about her breathing down my neck with all her conspiracy crap. Mario seemed okay with it. I knew he was hurt by it in the beginning because this was his mother about whom we're talking. She essentially disowned him for something so simple. Something that many people have done. Imagine cutting someone off because they got a vaccine. It boils my blood thinking about it even. Even with all the time that has passed, it was around this time that I discovered I was pregnant. Mario and I have been talking about having children, but we didn't think that it would be so soon. Despite this, I was thrilled. Mario was just as happy, and the craziest thing came out when we announced it all over social media. Dana, my mother-in-law, cut the both of us off because Mario got a vaccine. But now that she knew we were bringing her first grandchild into the world, she wanted to be a part of it. I sat Mario down and the two of us had a serious discussion about it. Did we want to change our tune and allow that woman back into our lives after everything she had put us through? I was iffy about it, but as I like to say, Dana is Mario's mom, and it's the decision of his. If he wanted to have his mother back in his life, then we could just do it. He said only if I was fine with it, and I was, to an extent, but I wanted there to be rules. Whatever we say goes with the baby, and I fully intended the child to get vaccinated, and so, no matter what she said, it would not change my mind. If she so much as suggested any of that herbal tea crap, then the access would be cut off immediately. Guys, for a moment it felt like she would not say yes, but I guess having access to her grandchild mattered the most. She said that she was willing to push aside her issues with Big Pharma, and she still disliked getting vaccinated, but that was her business. It was not mine. So, we had an accord. It was a tense accord, but at least her child would be able to have both sets of grandparents in their life. Well, my parents and Mario's mother, since his father died many moons back. Guys, I ended up giving birth to a little girl that we named Jasmine. She was a beautiful little girl, and Mario and I fell in love. Dana seemed to feel the same way. We always kept an eye on her. If she wanted to visit Jasmine, she was free to come over to the house. However, I didn't allow overnights because I was nervous. Still, it wasn't like we were denied access to Jasmine. I also brought her over to Dana's house once a week, or my sister-in-law would pick her up, bring her there and bring her back before she started her night shift. For a few years, things worked out pretty well. I was impressed that my mother-in-law did try her best to not overstep her boundaries. She was doing it just because she didn't want to lose access to my daughter. With Mario, but there was no reason to worry about it if she was doing what needed to be done. My mother-in-law still drank those stupid herbal teas. It was so hard to believe that she had not been to the doctor in years. God knows what was going on in her body. I mean, we had modern medicine. Why not take advantage of it? You should. But my mother-in-law was not one of those people. Again, it was none of my business. Dana just kept it to herself and hadn't said a dang thing about the fact that we got Jasmine vaccinated as a child. Now, the reason I'm here writing this post. About a week ago, Mario and I learned that we needed to go on a work trip. This would have been fine, but then at that last minute, the babysitter pulled out. Jasmine's only 3 years old and needs a babysitter. To make this even worse, Jasmine was getting a cold. I wasn't too worried because the children got sick. It was normal because this is what happened with kids. We took her to the doctor right away, and they just said that we should give her some of the off-the-counter medicine, which should be fine. It would help her to be able to beat the cold as fast as she could. Again, I wasn't very worried, you know. It was just how it was. Kids did bounce back right away, saying she would be fine. The problem is we had no babysitter, and this work trip was something the both of us had to go on. The only thing we could think of to do was to drop her off at my mother-in-law's house, and everybody else was busy and could not take her to the last minute. While my sister-in-law would be there as well, she did work nights, so she won't be able to watch her like a hawk. We did warn mother-in-law that if she did not give her the medicine, then we were going to cut her off access from Jasmine. There was no doing anything stupid with our daughter because we were parents. Just give Jasmine the medicine and everything is going to be fine. Dana, my mother-in-law, readily agreed that it's okay. She was going to give her the medicine when she needed it. Jasmine would be in good hands, and even if she did not agree with the medicine being given, she understood that it was her granddaughter, not her daughter. Still, we did reach out to my sister-in-law and ask her to keep an eye on things. Leslie said that she's going to do what she can. My main point of the story for you guys is that in-laws can be crappy, but sometimes you just have to give them a chance. I'm hopeful that my mother-in-law is going to do what we asked of her. I can't imagine she would go over the rails and risk not seeing Jasmine again. She loves our daughter more than anything, and the problem is, for some reason, I can't help but feel a bit uneasy. What would you do? Am I overthinking? Update number 1. Hey guys, I'm back for an update and oh boy. I never expected to write this, but my mother-in-law messed up everything. All she had to do was follow my rules. I don't know how she messed up everything, but yet, I can feel it in my gut. My mother-in-law says she did nothing. It's hard to know what to believe. But I'm getting ahead of myself here, guys. Let me start back a few days ago. See, Jasmine was doing fine. She was sick, but was getting through the cold. I spoke with her on the phone and a few times, but also had my sister-in-law Leslie give me updates. It was good to know that she was keeping an eye out. Given my mother-in-law's past, you cannot blame me for wanting her to do this. Leslie told me that Dana, my mother-in-law, and her mother were doing a great job. She would give her the medicine daily, just like she promised, and even if Dana did not agree with giving Jasmine medicine, she was fine to do it. The only time my sister-in-law could not monitor her was when she went to work at night. See, she's working the night shift right now, and during the day she would sleep, but Leslie made sure to still keep an eye out. Everything was going well until it wasn't. It was around day 4 of our work trip. We had a meeting to attend today, and I was in the shower when Mario got a phone call. He started knocking loudly on the door, and I didn't hear him until I turned the water off. Quickly, I yanked open the door and asked him what the heck's going on. Jasmine had been rushed to the hospital early that morning. He just got a call from Leslie, his sister, who said that the first fever suddenly got very high. It was high to the point where she did not get some intervention at a hospital quick, she would be in trouble. I panicked. He told me to get dressed while he tried to find a flight for us to come home. I was racking my brain as I got dressed. What could have happened? Why was Jasmine suddenly being rushed to the hospital after everything seemed fine? It made no sense to me. When I asked Mario what happened, he just told me that my mother-in-law just found her with a very high fever, and she called emergency and then told Leslie. Now, I have no evidence to prove this, but it felt like my mother-in-law had something to do with it. This might not be very fair of Dana. However, I had to look at her past behavior and what she had done or said. When I spoke with Mario about this, he tells me that both of us should just take a breather for a moment. You know, we didn't really know if this had anything to do with his mother and her beliefs for the most part. She could have followed our rules completely, but still ended up with Jasmine getting a fever because, these things could happen. I wanted to believe him. There was just this feeling in my gut. I tried hard to ignore it and just focus on getting home to Jasmine. At least she was in the hospital now. She would be taken care of there. While Mario tried to find a plane ride to get us home, I focused on packing and contacting our supervisor. They understand that we had to fly out there ASAP because of our daughter. I hope that Mario will be able to get us seats on the next plane ride back home. I hate being so far away from our daughter when she's sick. Update number 2. Hey guys, I'm back with an update. It's been 2 days since I last posted. Thankfully, we managed to get a flight back home about 6 hours after receiving the news my daughter was in the hospital. I was so relieved. The two of us hopped on a plane and paid extra for the seats and got home quickly. However, it didn't matter. We needed to be with our daughter, and this was all that mattered. When we got there, we went straight to the hospital where my sister-in-law and mother-in-law met with us. According to the doctors, our daughter had pneumonia. She was put on antibiotics and needed to be kept in the hospital for a few days. Now that she was in the hospital and on the correct medicine, everything was fine. But the doctors did mention that it would have been a good idea had we kept her on the over-the-counter medicine to prevent this from happening. Well, I told her that we took her to the doctor before we left, and Mario and I gave the medicine to my mother-in-law to give to our daughter. The doctor said that's good and all, but if she had been getting that medicine regularly, then she wouldn't have ever gotten sick to this point, where she got pneumonia. After the doctor left, my sister-in-law took my side to tell me what her mother had admitted to her just before we showed up. What she told me had me reeling. My mother-in-law had not been given her medicine at all. She had been giving her those herbal teas the entire time. The reason why my sister-in-law thought that Jasmine was getting the medicine is because she was emptying it down the sink twice a day to make it look like it was gone. My sister-in-law apologized, but I told her that she was not to be blamed. She worked a full-time job and did the best that she could, and Leslie was still young herself. Her mother was a grown woman who had gone behind our back and could have easily hurt our daughter. Mario and I were furious. I wanted to strangle my mother-in-law, but the two of us decided that it's best to just focus on Jasmine's recovery and deal with mother-in-law later. I want to go after my mother-in-law. Dana went against what we asked her to do and put our daughter in harm's way. What if she had gotten worse? It could have happened. One doesn't know what can happen in the cases like this. Thank goodness my daughter's going to be okay. Well, the doctors are pretty sure she's going to make a full recovery at least. All we can do is pray that our daughter is going to be safe. I'm not even, somebody who's religious, but at this point I'm willing to take whatever help I can get. I just simply regret ever giving my mother-in-law a chance. And what I said to you all before about giving other people's a chance, yeah, people can change. Yeah, that's true, but in my case it was a bad idea. So you probably won't hear from me for a while because my daughter is what matters the most to me, as you can probably imagine. Update number 3. The first thing I want to say before I delve into this update is that my daughter's doing great. She's home, finally, and I know that she's in a stable condition in the hospital, but until we had her home, which was about a week since I last updated, I could tuck her in safely in her bed, I was a nervous wreck. My mother-in-law was trying to act like everything was alright and hunky-dory, as she was so concerned. Did she forget that all of this was her fault? If she had not failed and just gave my daughter the medicine, then Jasmine would not have ended up in the hospital. I talked with my husband and asked him what he wanted to do since it was his mom. After talking for a bit, we decided to blast her all over social media. It started with one post on Facebook I made, and I tagged everybody. Her friends and everyone she knew, and this might seem petty, but it was necessary. People had to understand what she had done to me, to my husband, daughter, and family. My daughter could have seriously gotten ill, or God forbid worse, and it could have been prevented if she just gave my daughter the medicine she was supposed to. At first, some people didn't believe it, but my husband and I had receipts. Plus, Leslie backed up our claim. I had to hand in to my sister-in-law. She went against her mother, who she happened to live with right now, and it was pretty brave of her to do that. My mother-in-law was absolutely livid. She tried denying everything and then tried to turn it around on me. I was the evil woman who had forced my husband to fall in love with a big pharma. If I had just woken up and stopped being a, quote, sheep, then this would have never happened. According to her, she was doing what she had to do to save her grandbaby. Save her from what? My mother-in-law made her sick. If she had just given her the damn medicine, then my daughter would not have had to go to the hospital. When she learned that Leslie spoke up on my behalf, my mother-in-law went ballistic. She starts to scream at her daughter, and she betrayed her and then basically kicked her out and disowned her. I wasn't surprised to learn that she kicked out Leslie. My mother-in-law was losing control of her daughter, so of course she was going to jump to the extreme. Luckily for my sister-in-law, her brother and I invited her to live with us. We had a furnished basement that was just finished up, so it was already ready for somebody to move. It was intended to be a guest room, but now it was going to be a permanent guest, Leslie. Leslie kept thanking us, and she seemed extremely grateful, though I told her several times that she didn't have to thank me. For one, she was my husband's sister and had always been good to me. Throw in the fact that she stood up for my daughter, and she guaranteed that I would not want her to live anywhere but with us. My mother-in-law's going to be happy when she learns about this. Not. But you know what? Tough crap. Final updates. Guys, this is my final update. It's been a few weeks, and I thought I would jump on here to show you sometimes karma can be problematic and can hit you when you least expect. First of all, my daughter's great. She's made a complete recovery, much to my relief, and it's likely none of it ever happened. You don't know how grateful I am that everything worked out for us, because it could have gone badly in the blink of an eye. While we were thriving, the same can't be said for my mother-in-law. See, she has this big birthday bash every year. She invites everyone. My mother-in-law acts like her birthday is some national holiday and everyone's always indulging her. However, not this time. Since we posted what she did all over Facebook, nobody came to my mother-in-law's party. She contacted us that night of the party, blaming mostly me for everyone abandoning her. I reminded her that she was the one who did all this just because she could not follow instructions. If she had given poor little Jazzy her medicine, then it would have been okay. So it's safe to say that I had no sympathy for her under any circumstances. My mother-in-law kept crying, trying to guilt trip me. I guess, but there's no way that's going to happen, not an ounce of sympathy from me. The same came from her son. My husband was at this point where he was cutting his mother off completely. It's not something anybody wants to do, but she could have killed our daughter. We told her on that night of her birthday not to contact us again because we're done. At first, she didn't believe us. However, yesterday, my husband received a call from her, asking him to come over to take care of her as she's sick. I guess karma finally caught up with her, as I clearly heard my husband say to her that none of us will come and take care of her even if she is sick. And she could just continue relying on her little herbal tea from now on. Like I said, no matter what happens to her now, we are done. Look, OP, I understand the rage you're feeling, says one commenter. You know, your daughter could have easily gotten ill because of what she did. But was it really necessary to shame her all over social media and leave her all alone when she's sick? It was a step too far in my opinion. Your granddaughter only has 2 sets of grandparents, and even if you have to supervise the visits, don't you think it's at least worth keeping her in Jasmine's life? You should think about that one. Guys, do you agree with that comment, and what do you think about it? Drop your opinion down below, and say, for example, OP was reading your comment. What would you say to OP? Guys, my name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate stories like this every single day. And if you want to be a part of these daily stories, consider subscribing. I'll see you guys tomorrow. And of course, remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.